beautiful souls. This is Catherine Hidalgo, your friendly, intuitive catalyst conduit. I just had to come on to share something that happened to me this morning, and it's very instructive because I am living something right now that is extremely painful, and I am going through it with great difficulty. No kidding. And what I realized this morning is we all have to take responsibility for our lives, for the way we interact with others, for the actions we take, the thoughts we think. Yes, especially the thoughts we think. Oh my God, they do fuck us up. I am not kidding. I am not kidding. So the situation is this: when you find yourself between a rock and a hard place and you're back against the wall, you fight. It's natural. It's absolutely natural. That is our instinct for survival. But we are no longer in the wilds, well, most of us anyway. The only thing that's wild, in fact, are our thoughts, believe it or not. The only thing that gets to us, that makes us do real shit, as we say in the Caribbean, are our thoughts. We mess up, we fuck up, we don't do the things that we need to do for ourselves. And then what do? We blame others. And you know something? While others are part of our lives, none of us are alone here on this planet. Even though I myself have always felt that I have been alone, all my life, in fact, the bottom line is this: we are what we create, and what we create emanates from our thoughts. Because we are, and I keep saying this, we are connected to the mind field. And when we do not pay attention, we get caught with those famous IUDs. Don't realize, we forget that we are in a minefield and it explodes under our feet. It scatters all our particles, etc. Well, at least I feel that's what happens. And in fact, I know this to be true because when circumstances put you in a particular place and you have nothing to hold on to, the fear rises, which is normal. What is not normal is when we swim in it, when we stay in it, and it overtakes and it brings up every other fearful incident that has occurred in our lives. In my case, I mean, just imagine. And if you have never been in such a situation, I know this is going to be pretty difficult. But when I lived in a homeless shelter, one of two actually, and I saw this man coming to kill me, I mean, to stab me to death. This bugger was so strong, he was actually able to break off a piece of very thick PVC with his fingers. And the pointy end is what he was going to stab me with. And there was nothing I could do. There was no one I could call. There was no one around to shout for help because no one was going to come to my assistance. And this was in the shelter that had a security guard, but everyone was terrified of this bully. and no one could tell him anything. And so that kind of terror turns your guts to water. Take my word for this. And so, coming back to the present, I allowed my particular situation to bring up that kind of terror. What was I going to do? I have no one to help me. There is no one to call. And guess what? Those were all lies. But you see, it's the thoughts we think when we find ourselves in a situation that is out of our control, it is out of our hands. This is what happens because I have had many people assist me, emotionally support me, and yet I have always felt alone when I get between this, when I get to a particular situation, let's call it that. And so I have been fighting against it. And the damn thing is, I advise exactly the opposite. I keep telling people, you dance with chaos. Fear is an illusion. Fear is a learned pattern. And I can confirm this because I have lived in fear for maybe since I was 6 or 7 years old. You know, the fear that my mother doesn't love me. Okay, she didn't. She abused me. And as a child, you always need to know that an adult loves you and will protect you. And this has never been my case as a child. So I have this habit of feeling alone. And listen, I like being alone. I like being by myself. This is how I was able to grow myself and develop myself and become strong. But I never really felt that I was strong, you know, despite the childhood rapes, at 3 and maybe 10 or 11, somewhere between 10 and 12, and the physical abuse and all that sort of stuff. And just being constantly abused verbally and psychologically. Um, so that's just to say that that's where I was. So it's this pattern that was imprinted. That became my blueprint. So I gotta walk strong, I gotta walk tall, and I gotta walk the talk. But what happens then when you can no longer walk the talk because you are no longer in control? Because you see, this is where responsibility comes in. Taking responsibility for yourself has nothing to do with physical action. It has to do with emotional responsibility before you can take any physical action. And physical action should only be taken when it's inspired action. If, for instance, you are in a court case, okay, you have no control over the date, but you do have control over your thoughts that you think and how you want to be. And that is when you have to call on spirit for help. We all have guardian angels. I mean, sure, I never knew I had one, but that's another story. In fact, that's the next story that I'm going to share. So coming back to when I woke this morning, I realized, I got a thing from Bob Proctor many, many years ago, an article or a book or something where the title was Let Go and Let God. And I read it, I reread it, I read it again, I wrote blog posts about it, I shared my thoughts, I encouraged people about it, but I never really practiced it. So coming back again to this morning, no, I'm not going off track. These are all the things that are underneath what occurred, what happened to me this morning. And it's when I decided, because I have spoken about 3 feet from gold on another video already. And that's when I realized it finally sunk in that yes, what is happening to me now is literally because I am 3 feet from gold and I had to go for it. So I laid there in my bed and I just saw myself literally turning a corner. I saw myself literally turning a corner in a dark tunnel and just moving on, like a soldier. And I'm very warlike. Huh? I'm a warrior. I'm a life warrior. Always have been. No choice. And I saw myself as if I was in a tunnel and I am going on hands and knees and I am going through this dark tunnel and I am ignoring everything else and I am going for that goddamn gold that is mine. And I finally arrive in a place where I see a chest and then it turns to bars of gold. And then I see bright golden light, and I see that even the walls are gold. And then I felt like a current running through me. And I called on my higher self. That's my soul. Some people call it spirit. You can call it whatever you like. For me, that is, was, and always will be my higher self, my connection to all that is. And it was, and I'm feeling it again as I speak. It it elevated me to the very heights. And I let go. And that is when I understood every single thing that has been happening to me over the past few weeks culminated in this experience this morning. And it was blissful. It was innovating. I felt as if I had bubbles running all through me, but bubbles just lifting me higher and higher and higher. And that's when I began to release finally every single person who I tried holding on to, whom I knew owed me big time for all that I gave selflessly, heartfully, without a second thought. I released everybody and I just became so grateful. I felt so grateful for all that they gave me, for all that they offered. And that includes my anal retentive, tight fisted, fearful brother, fearful of life, huh? Because of his experiences. But that's his story to tell if he ever tells it one day. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have this laptop to share. And so, this is where again the taking responsibility comes in. We gotta let it all go. We have to let everyone go. We have to let everything go and just be who we are right now in this magnificent space called life. And what happens then? The gratitude just floods me. It flooded me. I think every cell in my body, every pore in my being was filled with gratitude. And this is where we all need to get to, because when you take responsibility for your life, for yourself, your magnificent, beautiful, soul filled self, magic happens, because letting go is what each and every one of us need to do, and that is where we all have to get to. That is the responsibility we need to accept for ourselves. There is no other choice. If we want to advance, if we want to progress in our life and achieve the goals that we have in our hearts. And this is another thing, because I have been working on opening my heart more and more and just letting the light shine in. Because really, our heart is our compass. We gotta let our heart be our guide. I think I spoke about this on another video, either a video or an audio video thingy. So, on that note, my beautiful souls, I will say I love you. I just needed to share this. This is really so crucial to our well being. It is inevitable. That's the word that just came to me. It is inevitable. If you want to progress in your life, you have to let go. You have to take responsibility for the things that you have done, the way that you have lived, the things that you have said. It really doesn't matter who else was involved. What matters is this: you and only you. It doesn't even matter if you have children and who you are responsible for. You still have to take responsibility for yourself first and foremost. And the letting go is absolutely essential, and so is the gratitude. So is the gratitude. And that is going to set you on the right path. And that is when inspired action results. That's the only kind of action to take. Nothing else is real, and nothing else will be fruitful or fruit filled when this doesn't happen. So, on this note, my beautiful souls, thank you very much for listening, for being here. Namaste. Is that thing working? I have no idea. I guess it is.